Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being flexible with I know there's some technical difficulties, but thank you so much for being flexible. My name is Nicole Osborne. I'm the Program Operations Coordinator of Social Capital, Inc. I am calling in from Boston, Massachusetts in the United States of America. And so this is 12 hours behind from Makassar, Indonesia. So it is 8 a.m. for you all. Good morning to you all. And it is 8 o'clock at night for me. We also are joined here today by one of my colleagues. So good evening to my colleague. So today I will be presenting to you all about how to create a community project. I'm gonna talk about how to use your network, resources, skills to ultimately demonstrate effective youth leadership and overall benefit your community. So it'll be about a 45-minute workshop with about 30 minutes for questions and answers at the end. So if you could hold your questions till the end, that'd be great, or you can put them in the chat and we can visit them at the end of this workshop. Unless if it's a pressing question and during our activity, which we'll get to later in the presentation. So this workshop on how to create a community project is under the Speak Up Anti-Bullying campaign, which is a campaign established by Miss Eka Santi. And I would like to give a shout out to the Speak Up team. Here are the names of the newly recruited Speak Up team members. Congratulations on being accepted into the Speak Up program. I'm very excited for you all to be youth leaders in your community in this anti-bullying campaign initiative. So before we get into the content for today, I am going to give a little bit of an introduction about myself. So my name is Nicole again. I lived in 4 US states: Hawaii, Alaska, North Carolina, and Massachusetts. And if you are familiar with US geography, this is all across the country. And this is because my father, he was in the military. He was in the Coast Guard. And so I moved around a lot growing up. We always moved somewhere that was next to the water. But there was always a military community where we moved to. So in these military communities, it was common for families to be coming in and out of the area. And so no matter where my family moved to, we felt very welcomed and accepted. And this is because there were lots of community events that demonstrated this, community events that were family friendly and fun, and got people together to meet new people and learn more about each other. And another fun fact about me is that I'm a first-generation college student. So I am also a second-generation immigrant. Thank you. I see some hands clapping. And I'm also a second-generation immigrant. So my mother, she is from the Philippines and immigrated to Hawaii when she was 20 years old in the 90s. And something that she really valued was a good education. And this was something that she instilled in me, wanting to strive for a good education, specifically by going to college. And so this was all tied in with the value for the American dream. And to help my family achieve the American dream, I attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. If you know basketball star Michael Jordan, fun fact, this is the same school that Michael Jordan went to where his basketball career flourished. I did not go to UNC Chapel Hill for basketball, but I did go there for sociology, family science, and social and economic justice. So I gained lots of knowledge related to the concepts and frameworks on community engagement. I also had several internships and volunteer opportunities with local nonprofits. So this means I got hands-on experience and academic experience with the community. So with this background, I was very passionate about being involved with the community, and I wanted to find a job that was very engaged with the community. And so now I do community organizing through Social Capital Inc., where I am able to apply the skills and knowledge that I gained at UNC Chapel Hill. And I continue to grow here at Social Capital Inc. as a young professional who strives to have a career in nonprofits. So a little bit of background about the photos you see on this page. To the left is a photo of me at an event for work. On the bottom left is a graduation photo. The middle is a photo of my family with my brother, my mom, and my dad. And then to the very right is a photo of my partner and I. Now I'll talk a little bit about Social Capital Inc., which is, again, the nonprofit that I work for. So Social Capital Inc. was established by David Crowley, our president. It was established in 2002 by him. He was inspired to create Social Capital Inc. because he read a book called Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam. And this motivated him to create a nonprofit that is all about strengthening communities and cultivating connections. And we do this through various initiatives. We have community events. So this past summer, we've been having these free public concerts right by the water during sunset. So it's a very fun and romantic evening. We also have volunteer opportunities throughout the year. Our next volunteer opportunity is a leaf raking event for seniors in the community, the elderly, who need yard help. They need help cleaning up their yard. And then we also have various youth leadership opportunities, which I will dive more into that later in this presentation. And then we have a program called SCI AmeriCorps. So for some context about this, AmeriCorps is a national volunteer program where people serve a community. And at SCI AmeriCorps, our fellows facilitate volunteer engagement, youth enrichment programs, and community outreach activities at nonprofits across Boston. So a little bit more context, Social Capital Inc. is based in a city outside of Boston called Woburn. And although we're based in Woburn, we serve all of Greater Boston through these various initiatives. You may be wondering, how did I get connected with the Speak Up program? How did I get connected with Golden Gate School? Well, I met Miss Eka Santi through the Community Engagement Exchange Program. So this is an opportunity for people all across the world to come to America and have a fellowship for 3 months at a host site that is involved with the community. And so Eka applied and became a fellow in the CEE program. And so this past year, from February to April, Eka was placed at Social Capital Inc. as her host site. And she learned from not just SCI, but she also learned from the CEE program, as well as her overall experience here in America. And she is taking what she's learned from all of us to implement her Speak Up anti-bullying campaign in Makassar. And so that's how I knew Eka, because we closely collaborated at SCI. And pictured here is me on the left, Eka on the right, and then in the middle is our AmeriCorps member, Saray. She was our SCI AmeriCorps member and graduated from the program this summer. So yeah, so it's the CEE program is such a wonderful opportunity. And what's beautiful about it is that it's not just a one-way exchange. It's bi-directional. There's an opportunity for somebody from the host site in America to go to the fellow's country, the fellow's home country. And so I had the opportunity to apply for this grant to be able to do that. And I was recently awarded the Community Engagement Project Exchange Grant through the CEE program to go to Indonesia for 2 weeks in October to collaborate with Eka on the Speak Up campaign. So I'm very excited for this collaboration with Eka and the Speak Up campaign because I will be able to meet many of you all in person in a couple of months. All right, so what is social capital? You might be wondering that. When you think of capital, you might think of money. You might think of financial capital, economic capital, but there are other forms of capital, and this includes social capital. It means our social networks have value. So what does this look like? It means that our communities have a strong sense of trust when there is strong social capital in the community. When there are high levels of social capital, there's going to be high sense of civic engagement. There's going to be active involvement in the community, and also there will be meaningful connections across differences. So of course, we want strong social capital in our communities, but this requires collective effort and trust. And a great way to boost social capital in your community is by creating a community project. I've laid out several steps on how to create a community project. So first, when you create a community project, you're going to have to identify the need. Think of creative ways you can help your community. Second, you will develop a clear project plan, establish goals and a timeline. Also, how are you going to measure success? Define that. Next, you will collect feedback and support from people in your community, such as friends, family, teachers, spiritual leaders, anyone you trust that will make your project better. Next, you're going to use your social capital, your connections, to promote, launch, and implement your community project. Connect with the people around you to help you get the word out there about the project that's going to be happening. And then determine if you reached your goals. So think of step number 2, how you developed a clear project plan, you created goals and a timeline, and you even created a way to measure success. When you're on step number 5, reflect on that. Determine if you reached your goals. You can do this by evaluating your project, by collecting and comparing data from perhaps surveys and observations. So when you create your community project, you're going to use your social capital, but you're also going to be building social capital in your community when you implement your community project. Now, I have an activity for you all, and I want you to break out into groups of 2 to 3. I know you're in classrooms or you're with somebody. So get into groups of 2 to 3 and talk about the prompts that are on this slide. I'll read them out loud. Is there something in your community that you would like to change or improve? What would you do to positively change your community? Who or what do you need to support you? So think about these questions. Think about that concept of social capital and uplifting your community. And so now get into groups of 2 to 3. We'll come back at, let's come back at 8:38. 8:38. And I'd love to hear some of the ideas you all have. All right, let's start wrapping up our thoughts and come back together on this Zoom. Would anybody like to share their community project idea? Is there any of your answers to the prompts? Is there something in your community that you would like to address? What would you do to address it, and how and who or what do you need to support you in that process? All right, who would like to share what they talked about? I know you all are going to be wonderful youth leaders and have great ideas.
I think I would like to answer it.
Go ahead.
Langsung jawab kah? For me, I think something that I would change in the community is that in our school, we need a bond more between the classes, the seniors and the juniors, and like what would I change to change it to possibly change my community is by creating community bonding activities, such as organizing regular informant events such as game nights or team building activities where both group can interact casually with no tension, encouraging mentorship programs where seniors guide juniors, fostering mutual support and collaboration. And then last but not least, I would probably need 4 main things that would support me, such as event planning, which identifies the activity details, resources such as budgets, promotion, and lastly, volunteers, collecting people who supports the same idea and wants to make an action out of it. Thank you.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And is your name Nicole or Barbie?
My name is Barbie.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Barbie. Anyone else would like to share? I know there were great discussions I saw from afar. Cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, so we would like to share our ideas. For the first question, we would like to improve our community's communication in terms of speaking up for our opinion.
And what would us do to positively change our community? We have to create an environment where everyone is given a chance to speak up, not only from person to person, but also anonymously from various medias.
So who or what do you need to support us? So we need the supervisor and all the members in the community to support us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. All right. How about one more group, maybe a group that's not from the Speak Up leadership team? We have one in the chat. All right, this one's from Hillary's team with Andy and Michelle. Do one of you want to read it out loud? Okay, I can go ahead and read it for Hillary's team. So to answer the first question for Hillary's team, they would like to see a decrease in cheating activities in school, where it would improve the students' knowledge overall if this would succeed. Yeah. And so what they would do to positively change their community is by focusing on a collaboration with teachers that focus on student improvement. And by doing this, hopefully it can make the studying environment healthier. And then for the last question, who or what do you need to support you? Hillary's team says, we need teachers and students to support this activity. Also the support of my friends and family to make our ideas a reality. Yes, I love everybody's ideas. There are so many wonderful ideas that you have all presented. I see so many youth leaders in front of me, and I know there are many other ideas that have not been shared with the rest of the group today, but I hope you keep your group's ideas in mind and maybe one day make that idea a reality. Think about those 5 steps I had on the previous slide on how you can use your connections, your social capital, your resources, and your knowledge to create your community project. So thank you all for that. Next, I am going to share some examples of, we also have another example in the chat. Thank you, G's group and Bernard's group. I'll read through them a little bit. So G's group says, we would like to change or improve friend groups that's exclusively with the same race or religion. The second response for G's group is that we would allow people to open up to other people with different cultural backgrounds or people from a different race. And then for the third response of what they would need to support them, the contribution from all of the people in the community, also at events that promotes different cultures and religions. And then, so thank you so much, G, Charlotte, and Zenza. Bernard and Baron also shared their response in the chat. They also had something very similar where they want to change the habit of calling out racist things. And so what they would want to do to positively change their community is change the jokes that are used. And they're gonna need to work together with everybody to reduce that racism. Thank you all for sharing. I really appreciate it. Like I said, these are wonderful ideas, and I hope that you all as youth leaders can make these ideas happen after this presentation. So, let's see. So
Wait, Miss, we would
yes.
like to present our ideas as well for the
Yes, please
5-minute activity. Okay, so for the first question, we would like a more peaceful community and more equality basically. And the second one is we would like to create a fair community with everyone having the right to talk their own opinion basically. And we would need students and teachers to support us so that we can fulfill this idea.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. So thank you so much to Justin, Alfred, and Abel for sharing their group's ideas. All right. Before I move on to the next slide, anybody else would like to share? Okay. Oh, and then we have another response in the chat. So Victoria's group with Annie and Clarissa said that solidarity, we think that our community needs to improve its cooperation with each other. Yes, and that's a key about building social capital, building that community connection and trust. So what they would do to positively change their community is to develop the communication and increase cohesiveness. And for support, they need the whole community to support each other. Awesome. So I am going to move forward with the next slide. All right, so now I'm going to talk about examples of youth leaders in America and what they're doing. Specifically, I'm going to talk about Social Capital Inc. and the youth leadership programs that we have that relates to creating a community project and overall building social capital. So we have a program called the Leaders for an Equitable Tomorrow, which I will often refer to as the LET group, the LET program. And so LET is all about youth mental health. It's a youth-led mental health program. We have 3 wonderful interns. Their names are Jacoby, Luke, and Valerie. They were in the picture on the previous slide, and they're also pictured right here on the far right. But they're wonderful youth leaders who are all passionate about advocating for mental health in their community. They're passionate about destigmatizing conversations and passionate about sharing resources with their peers. And so there's this general movement in the US to destigmatize discussions related to mental health, reduce the shame on seeking help when you are not feeling mentally well or if you're in a mental health crisis. So in the US, we are having this movement to overall destigmatize mental health. And so the Leaders for an Equitable Tomorrow does this by having mindfulness and wellness events, activities, workshops, and even social media posts that are fun and address mental health in some sort of way. So, for example, to the left is a picture from a Kindness Day activity. And Kindness Day was a celebration all across the city of Woburn. Again, Woburn is located right outside of Boston. And the LET interns were invited to celebrate Kindness Day with the community. And when they were brainstorming what to do for the community, they wanted to do something nice for local seniors, so the elderly. And what they came up with was to write kind notes on these 4-leaf clovers and display that at a senior center, which a senior center is a place for the elderly to gather for social interactions, to have fun with other elderly folks, and also find resources if needed. So the LET interns went to their classmates and asked them if they could fill out these kind notes, and they had at least 80 kind notes that they collected from their classmates and put on display at a senior center. And this was a fun activity to boost the spirits of the seniors and also have that intergenerational connection where young people were doing something for the elderly in the community. Another example of a community project that the LET interns have created was an event called Positive Minds. And so this event was made possible in collaboration with the LET interns and our SCI AmeriCorps member, Saray, who I mentioned in one of the earlier slides. So Positive Minds was all about exploring the bond between animals and mental health. And this was a public event for teens, and it was hosted at the library. So it was accessible in a central location for people. There were about 20 to 25 students that attended the event. At the event, there were 3 different stations. There was a clay making station where you could make little sculptures of your favorite animal. There was a drawing and writing prompt station where you can reflect by drawing and writing based off of the prompts, the reflection prompts. And then there was also a crafting station to make pet toys, maybe something fun for a dog or cat to play with. And what was really exciting about this event was that there was an actual dog at the event. And it was not just any dog. It was a therapy dog named Haley. And so Haley and her owner, Julia, they taught the students at the event about the purpose of a therapy dog and the benefits of a therapy dog. So this was a fun activity that the LET interns made possible with the collaboration of the SCI AmeriCorps member, but this was a fun activity that they collaborated on and made happen in their community. And it shows how you can make your community project ideas come to life. The LET interns, they're 16 to 17 years old. So don't let anybody stop you from creating your community project. Okay, and then another example of youth leaders in the Boston area creating community projects is through a program at SCI called the Youth Grant Pitch Contest. And again, this was a wonderful opportunity for youth leaders of all ages. We had, it was for people between the ages of 12 to 18 to come together, form a team, create a community project idea, and then develop that idea to propose for grant funding, meaning free money. And then if they were awarded the grant funding, then they could implement their projects. So that was a brief overview, but a wonderful part of the Youth Grant Pitch Contest is that the students are not going through this process alone. They are under the guidance of 2 to 3 coaches per team. And so this past year we had 11 teams, so about 85 wonderful youth leaders with great ideas. And so they had guidance from their coaches who helped them further develop their project idea. They helped them create their slides, the proposal, and even the budget for their project, because again, this was an opportunity for them to receive grant funding. And each team presented in April to a panel of judges, and each team was actually awarded funding. So all 11 teams was awarded funding of $1,000 to $2,000 US. And for those who are wondering what does $1,000 to $2,000 US mean, it equates to 15 to 30 million rupias. Yeah, it's a lot of money, I know, but you can, as mentioned with social capital, you can use your resources to make your project happen. So you don't always need funding to make your project happen. But these students had very big ideas, and the funding helped support the launch of really cool projects. I'm going to highlight a couple of projects from two different teams. One, there was a team called Inclusive Eats. They received $1,700 US dollars, and the need that they identified in their community was that there is a need for more culturally sensitive, culturally diverse food options. And this is because the community that they live in is growing, not just in population, but growing in diversity. And so Inclusive Eats wanted to have cultural cooking lessons to address this need. And so the cooking lessons are led by somebody with a diverse background, someone from a different part of the world who wants to share instructions on how to create a meal that means so much to them. And so with their funding, they are in the process of having these workshops, these cultural cooking lessons happen. And this is a wonderful way. Food is such a universal and wonderful way to get people together and bond and connect. So again, they're not just launching their community project, but they're also building that social capital. Another project I'd like to highlight is the Neighborhood Service Project. That's the name of the team. They're actually featured right here up in the front. It was quite a big team, and so wonderful, again, wonderful youth leaders. They also received $1,700, and their project was to support people who are unhoused, so people who do not have a home. And they wanted to support them by providing them with access to free clothing. And they wanted to do this in a way that was not stigmatizing. They wanted to destigmatize access to free clothing. They wanted to reduce the shame. And so they made this possible by having a community walk-in closet. That means there is this, it looks like a store, but it's not a store. Everything in it is free. So it's free access to secondhand clothing, and having it set up to look like a store makes it destigmatizing, makes people not feel as ashamed to get free access to secondhand clothing. So, like I mentioned, I know these students receive funding for their projects to launch, but this is where you would use your social capital to make your project happen. Get support from people who have resources or who have that knowledge to help you make your project happen. And as I wrap up this presentation, I want to encourage you all to be leaders in your community. Earlier you shared with me these wonderful ideas that I know you can make happen. And so I want to read a quote from US President Barack Obama, former US President Barack Obama, which many of you may be familiar with him because he grew up in Indonesia when he was a child, or he spent some time in Indonesia when he was a child. And former US President Barack Obama once said, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person, or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." So I'm confident that you all can make change by being youth leaders in your community, by boosting social capital through your wonderful ideas for your community projects. Thank you all for listening to my presentation. Before we get to questions, I'd like to give thanks to Golden Gate School for welcoming me to present, Miss Eka Santi for inviting me to be a part of this workshop for the Speak Up Anti-Bullying campaign. Thank you to the Speak Up youth leaders. Congratulations again on your acceptance into the Speak Up team. I'd also like to thank the Community Engagement Exchange Program and IREX for making this collaboration possible and making my upcoming visit to Makassar possible. Thank you to SCI for all their support and my colleague for joining us on this call today. And also a shout out to my partner, Michael, who I pictured on one of the earlier slides, who helped me practice for this presentation. So I know we have to end at 9:20, but I'd love to open up the floor for any questions that you all may have. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And these questions, thank you. These questions can be about the presentation itself, any themes from it, or just general questions about my experience or experience in America.
Presentation. Okay. Please, anyone, do you have any question? Please let people know. Yeah, you can ask her about how to create a community project, about this presentation, or anything that you want to know. I think you're really welcome. Yeah, hi, Mr. Maybe from the Speak Up team or the others. This is really great opportunity, guys. We have a speaker from the US. You know, in the US, right? It's like 9 p.m., right? It's evening.
Yes, it's 12 hours behind, which makes the math very easy. So it's 9 a.m. for you, 9 p.m. for me. So in the chat, we have a question. How can we get ideas for the community project? Yeah, so observe your community, observe your experiences in the community, listening is a big part of observing. Listen to what other people say that they need or that they see they need. Be very attentive to the needs of those in the community. If there's ever something that just doesn't feel right, maybe it feels inconvenient or something's just not right, that could be an area of where you could develop a community project.
Okay, anyone else? Maybe how many students do you think have a question? 2 or 3 first.
What was my idea for my first project? That is a great question. I believe your name is Malaika. Please correct me if I am wrong. My idea for my first community project, I have been doing a lot with the community since I was very young. But I'm gonna think about what I did when I was about your age, when I was in high school. So about 14 to 16 years old, I was in the student government at my high school. I was class president for 4 years, and we always had community projects happening throughout the year, whether that's fundraising for the school itself or doing something nice for the community. And a couple examples for that, we had a fun example is that we had like a pep rally. That's like an American tradition to get the students excited for the spring. Depends what time of year, for the fall or the spring. We've also had like field days where we would coordinate outdoor activities for the students to spend the afternoon. Instead of in the classrooms, we would be outside. So those are some examples of community projects I did in collaboration with my peers. And then we also did some things outside of the school. We would clean up the road outside of our high school. And so this was something we were doing for the community. We would clean up the litter on the side of the road and spend about 2 hours in our morning to do that twice a year. Bernard and Farron ask, is it difficult to run a community project? It is, I wouldn't say it's difficult, but when you have the right support, it becomes a lighter lift. So that's why it's so important to use your social capital. When you come up with your community project idea, surround yourself with those who you know would also be passionate about that community project and can give you, can pull from their strengths and share their expertise or share their experience to help you run the community project, because it's a community project. It should be completed with people in your community, not just yourself. All right. Emery and Putri ask, what are the potential challenges or obstacles in a community project? Yeah, it really depends on what type of project you have, what you're addressing, and what the scale, the size of your project is. Sometimes a challenge or obstacle can be related to accessibility, like how can you get your target audience, the people you want to help, to your event? How can you find those people? That can be a challenge. Sometimes funding feels like it's a challenge, but again, use your social capital and connections to overcome that obstacle. Other challenges may be trying to collaborate with community partners, and maybe there's a difference in ideas. And so it's having to learn obstacles that may happen when you are working with another team and navigating that. So we also have Michelle in the chat who asks, how many projects have you done up until now? That's a wonderful question, Michelle. I do not have an actual number, but I'm sure it's more projects than I can count on my fingers and my toes. Okay, and then we have another question. How can we join a community project? Where can we get the information of any community project? That's a wonderful question. I am not very sure about the Makassar and Indonesia community overall. But in America, we have lots of nonprofits and volunteer organizations that you can look up online, that you can find through social media, you can find at local events, and connect with them to get more involved with their initiatives. So perhaps Ms. Eka Santi can follow up with a list of any nonprofits or community organizations that she might be able to connect you with. Okay, I'm gonna take a break from the chat, and I see some hands. So Kayla and Kyoko, how do I say your name?
It's Kyoko.
Okay.
So I would like to ask, how do you handle any disagreement in your community, or like when you have a meeting?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Definitely something that could be a whole workshop in itself. That could be an idea for the Speak Up team to create a workshop similar to that. But conflict, in this case, it was a question about conflict, and conflict is oftentimes a result of a misunderstanding. And so sometimes it requires taking a step back to see the bigger picture, being attentive and listening to the needs of those you may have conflict with, and carefully expressing your needs as well, because you want to make sure you advocate for yourself and your needs. And so yeah, so it would be sorry, I'm looking at the chat too. Does that answer your question, Kyoko and Kayla?
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, wonderful. Like I said, that could be its own workshop. All right, Kiko and Tiara.
Hi. I would actually ask about being a leader itself. Personally, when I actually lead a certain group, or
Sorry, Kyoko and Tiara, your connection froze. We can either wait, or if you'd like to put it in the chat, that would also be good. Okay, I'm sorry, Kyoko and Tiara, you froze, so I'm gonna answer some questions that are in the chat. And if you could put your question in the chat, that'd be great. So let's see. Felicia, I hope I said your name right. She asked, what makes you so interested in our community? Yeah, so collaborating with Eka for 3 months, I learned so much about Indonesia, and I learned a bit about Makassar, and she made me very excited to learn more about Makassar and Indonesia with an in-person experience. And so that's what made me very passionate about it. The stories Eka has told me, the way she lights up when she talks about her home country of Indonesia was very wonderful. So I'm very excited for this cultural exchange. Okay, another question in the chat asks, how much funding do these projects require on average? That really depends on the type of project and what the needs are for the project. Maybe your project requires you to print out materials for the event. Maybe you need to print out flyers to advertise your event. So I'm not sure how much that would cost, but it depends where you are. And that's why you would make a budget when you create your plan, when you create those goals and timelines. Maybe a budget will be part of that. And if you are able to make your project happen without monetary funds, that's even better. Victoria asks, what was the biggest project I've done? I would say the youth grant pitch contest. That was a program with SCI that I managed, and it was definitely the biggest project. Kiko, you had your hand up. Someone from Kiko's group wanted to share something.
Yes. Hi, it's me again. I actually want to ask about being a leader itself. Personally, when I actually lead a team or a certain group, I usually feel a little insecure or overthink about it. I usually think if I'm doing good enough for the team or if what I'm doing is right. So I'm actually asking for maybe tips from you to what can I do to overcome those feelings maybe? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And are you Kiko? Is that your name?
Yes, Keiko.
Keiko. Thank you. Wonderful question, Keiko. That is definitely something that many people navigate. That is something that many leaders navigate. I'm a young professional in the nonprofit community. And so that's also something I myself am navigating, but what I've learned is that you should trust in yourself and your strengths, pull from your strengths when you lead, because that's what you will enjoy most. And people will see you being confident when you pull from your strengths. Awesome. And then we're approaching 9:20, so if there's any other questions, now is the time to ask. Clarissa and Annie asked in the chat, have you ever felt tired or bored with your community? And that is a wonderful question. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation, I moved around a lot when I was younger. I moved around about on average every 3 to 4 years. And so I always entered a new community. I would not feel bored. I would definitely feel very comfortable and connected with my community. And I would not say that is boring at all. It's always a good feeling to feel connected with your community, but it is also exciting to engage with a new community and learn more about a new community. So here in Massachusetts, in Boston, I've been here for 1 year. And so this is still a very new community for me. It's a big city. So even though I've been here for a year, there is a lot to learn about the community. Clarissa, yes.
Hello. Okay. So I wanted to ask, when you launch a project, have you ever felt like in the middle of the project launching, have you ever felt unsure that the project would succeed? And if, say, that happens to us, how do you think we would, like, is there a way for us to tackle that problem? Yeah, I think that's my question. Thank you.
That's a great question, Clarissa. I would say something common, like a common concern of mine is when I launch projects or events is like being nervous about who is going to show up and how many people are going to show up at that event. But I think you just have to trust the process and trust yourself in the work, but also at any stage of your project launch, I believe if you are feeling that way, you should turn to the people on your team, turn to the people in your community, get that support and validation from them. And if there's anything specific that you actually need help with, ask them for help. There is no shame in asking other people for help or support in a project that you are leading. And then Justin and Alfred and Abel ask, how do you overcome lack of unity in your community? And this is definitely something that many communities all across the world are trying to overcome. And with Social Capital Inc., our initiative is to do this by boosting that social capital in the community by having those community events, volunteer opportunities, youth leadership opportunities to build that social capital, building that trust, building the connectedness, and building that civic engagement. All right, it is 9:21, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all so much for your time, taking for coming here today on this Zoom call for the workshop on how to create a community project. Thank you again to Golden Gate School, all of you as youth leaders. I hope that you can go out into the community now and launch and create your community project and launch your event or project however you foresee it. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for the good presentation, and thank you for sharing your expertise with us. Yeah, we are so excited to wait for you on October. We will be coming here. Thank you so much.
Yes, I am very excited to meet many of you all in October. I hope to see you all very soon.